What's going on, everyone? Just setting this up right now. Wait for Mike to get on. Inviting him now. How's everyone doing? Just going to give Mike a couple of seconds to get on here, and we're going to start a little live discussion. We're going to have some people from different parts of the country coming on and discussing the topic. Tonight's topic is running on the Fireground. The reason why I came up was some posts that Mike has done in the past. It's discussions we had previous to it, but it's a topic for discussion. Should be discussed, in every firehouse, really. But we wanted to touch on some of the things that came up after his post. A lot of good direct messages were sent to him, and it's all food for thought. So like I said, we're just going to give him a couple of minutes here, let some people sign on, and we're also going to let Mike join. We're having some technical difficulties already, so just give us a minute here. As we're waiting, if you're in the comments section, just let me know where you're a fireman. Just put it in there. What town or city you're from. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
What's up? You hear me okay?
Yeah, you seem a little low, but that might be my phone.
All right. It's these headphones, I believe. Hold on then.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Good things that can work better sometimes. But...
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a second, let some people join on. I did a quick thing. I also said, put their department, their city, or where they're from into the comments, and they're doing that now. And seeing that got people from Maryland, PA, Alabama, Connecticut. It's good. I can see Canada there. What's up, Alpha Rescue? Germany. So there's different. We're definitely going outside of the United States, which is nice. Like I said, this topic was basically started. Discussion was started on Mike's page. I think you touched on this actually last year, right? Was the first time you brought it up?
Yeah, last year I did a post, and that one got a lot of traction. We had well over 100 comments. For pros, cons, everything in between. It got kind of ugly in there, but it was good to get some feedback from everyone in that. The one I just did now was I randomly put up a survey on Saturdays. I saw a picture that kind of made me laugh, so I put it up there with the survey. Got a lot of DMs after that, so it kind of sparked another post which was similar to the original, but just kind of summed up a different mindset with it, in the same format, I guess you would say, what the first one was. Yeah, so. Decision, I don't want to get into a huge debate because I really think this is it's a topic that we can debate for hours and days. For some reason, it brings the crazies out of the woodwork in the fire service, and no one wants to budge on this. And I don't think there's a reason to budge. I think it's a cultural thing, and I think that's how you adapt to it, and that's fine. So, like Darren said, just people from all over. If people want to jump in, we're going to make this quick. We're going to do this in an hour. Jump on, plead your case, say your beliefs, and then we can chat about it. When you get off, we'll talk about it, and hopefully we can keep that going. Like I said, we have people from Germany in here and wherever else. It'd be kind of fun just to see around the world what everyone's thinking, what everyone's doing, what their mindset is, and leave it at that, right?
Right. So I think the best way to start off is I haven't given my opinion 100% out on, on this topic. I'm a firm believer that when you get on the Fireground, everything is fast-paced to begin with, and you're coming off the rig, and it takes a little bit of discipline to kind of slow down and size up what you're actually looking. The company I am in now, we have quite a large response area, and a lot of the fires that we do happen to go to might be a little bit of a further distance. And with that being said, I told Mike about this. Sometimes we're not parking anywhere near the fire building. We're parking away from it. And based off of several variables, but radio traffic on the way in, conditions that are present with members operating, what I'm hearing over handy-talkie transmissions as I'm coming in, is really going to dictate how fast I'm going to move from my apparatus to the front of the fire building. With that being said, I caught 2 fires in the last 24 hours. Both fires, neither one I ran at, because I knew the companies were already in, they're already operating, things sound like they're going good, everyone's in place. It didn't even sound like we were going to be put to work. So long story short, we walked like a gentleman down to the front of the building. In other times, when I hear radio traffic that could be quite frantic, or potentially you hear it's starting to go south, conditions are starting to change, I do move at a much faster pace down the block. But what I always do, and this is where I think it's important, is multiple buildings out, exposures down, I start slowing down. Especially when I'm getting now, let's say I'm at the exposure and now it's the actual fire ground per se in the fire building. I'm slowing down at that point and I'm starting to look at it. And the radio traffic could be frantic, but slowing down and looking at the building, looking at the conditions, looking at ladder placement, looking at potential means of egress, looking at what the fire is doing, looking at smoke conditions. Your brain has to process all this information really quickly while you're doing that. If I do a disservice and I run past that and go like moth to the flame to the front door, I might miss valuable information, especially information that once that Mayday comes in, I'm not ready for. And now I'll be regretting, hey, did I get a good look at the 1-4 side as I was coming up? Taking that slow down approach as you get to the front of the building and looking where portable ladders are placed and everything like that, that's different. Now, I understand that is me coming from like behind the 8 ball. I'm coming to somebody else's operation per se, their first do, second do, and I'm there to assist them, and I'll make fast movement from my rig to, like I said, a couple of doors, a couple exposures down, and then slow down. But then you look at, now I'm first due. Now let's just switch the tone real quick. I'm first due engine, or if I'm on a first due truck company and we get on scene and I get off the rig, I'm not running full speed off the rig and into that building. I'm kind of giving, again, a good size up. And I'll give one more example as far as, because there's so many variables, and that's what the thing is. I know that's why guys get into the conversation about it, and it becomes a very, very heated debate, because guys are trying to relate to the fire area they're in. And the fire area that we happen to be in has a lot of diverse buildings. So another example would be, I get off at an H-type, and so it's a non-fireproof, multiple dwelling. I get off, and I go, and say it's 6 stories, fire's on our upper floor. I'm slowing my approach from the rig, and I'm looking up, sizing the building, checking, how many floors there are, if I see anything from the front, all this stuff. Now I'm inside the building. Yeah, I'm going to make some movement up those stairs. You're going to go, reasonably fast, but you're not like running full bore up these stairs. And then you know what's going to happen? Right before I get to the fire floor, I'm slowing down again. And maybe if I'm not familiar with the building, or if there's something that looks oddball, I'm going to take a look at the layout on that floor below, or somewhere that I can see where the apartment layout potentially be, or see where the fire department might be on the floor above, on the fire floor or the floor above, in case once I get up to the fire floor, conditions are lights out. So I know it's tough to answer questions on the internet. I know it's tough to answer questions on social media, right? And Mike, 100% correct me if I'm wrong. When you pose this question about running on the Fireground, it's kind of geared to this blanket statement, like, all right, we're on scene, and I'm gonna run. I'm gonna get off this rig, grab me. I'm just gonna run in because people need me. People, need me to search right away, and we're here, and every second counts. And the problem, and you're right, every second does count, but lessons learned, in my past, especially when I was a newer fireman, new to this, to everything. When I was a probie and maybe year of probation, I used to be in the mindset of, I got to get there and try as hard as I can, as fast as I can. I got to get in here. I got to get in here. And what happens is, in that situation, I was using a door, for example. I get to a door and I would try to force the door. Force it one way, didn't work. Force it the other way, didn't work. Try something else, didn't work. Try 4 different techniques, and then finally I get through. Where vice versa, I would watch a senior firefighter come up to the same door with a much slower approach, take a step back, size up the door, and use 1 or 2 real quick, definitive methods to get through that door and get in the door much faster than me. Yeah, I beat him to the door. Yeah, I tried multiple times trying to force this, and it didn't work. I got on the 4th time, but yet the senior fireman moved at a much slower pace and took a second to size up this door, got through much quicker than I would have got through. And that's like that same example can be related to, I believe, running on the Fireground. I think there's a time and place for different things, and I gave a couple of examples here when I potentially might move at a faster pace. At no point is it a full-out sprint, um, but it's definitely, guys say move with a purpose. I mean, let's be honest here. There's walking, there's jogging, and there's running. I mean, whatever you want to say, move with a purpose fits into what category you want. Like you're a fast-paced walking or you're jogging. I mean, you could define that. The thing is like you just don't want to run into a building with complete tunnel vision or blinders on, looking down at the ground and not sizing up what you're doing. And I think there's so many variables like radio traffic and conditions that need to be listened to and taken into effect. I know I went more, Mike, but I figured it would be better if I kind of just rambled out a bunch of this information so you can everyone on who's coming on can know my viewpoint. So now, yeah, I mean, you could come off of that, and then we'll try to bring some people on.
Yeah, no, everything you hit on was great. And just to go on the record for you, I guess I'm gonna blow up your spot and say that you did vote yes for running on the Fireground. And when I saw that, I knew where you were coming from, is everything you just elaborated on, where
Yeah.
it's rig placement, and you're coming into the job at a different point. A couple of things you said that senior man moving at a slower pace. I think that the word's not slower. I think it's a calculated pace or that calculated maneuver where he understands the calculation of a precise moment where he fits in to the whole grand scheme of the Fireground. Um, that's where we kind of get lost in the transition. I think when we're running, we're not truly understanding where we fit in. And the understanding where we fit in is paying attention to details, and details come from slowing down. All these things have a domino effect on the ultimate checkmate in the Fireground, which is what we're all trying to do. So, like you said, coming later into the fire, it's there's a tempo, a rhythm, and cadence to every fire that's going on, right? And every fire, the tempo speeds up, right, or it slows down, depending on the stress level when we get to this fire. Sometimes the stress level is off the charts. There's jumpers, someone hanging out the window holding a baby, saying, "Save my baby." Yes, now the tempo's here, right? Routine fire out one window. All right, now the tempo's here maybe. There's understanding, there's a rhythm, a cadence, and a tempo to everything we do in this job. That's what gets us into the proper positioning, and positioning is everything, right? I always go back to that positioning. More lives are saved by getting a position, and by running, sometimes we're missing that initial instinct. Instinctually, we do things on the Fireground. We pull up, we go to work. Sometimes pausing, taking a breath, observing, orientating, right? That whole OODA loop scenario comes into place the second you get off that rig by simply pausing, taking a breath, and looking up. That split second, which may seem like a lifetime in the moment, really can deviate what way you're going to go. Because sometimes our gut, our instinct is wrong. And by pausing, you can, at that point, recorrect what your instinct may be. In a split second, it's not a matter of minutes or numerous seconds, it's a split second. Then you go to work. So going back to running, I haven't had any negative feedback. I just always have very good direct messages about this. So it's not like I had a guy tell me I'm crazy. I think everyone agrees with what I'm saying. It's just a cultural thing. So where do we draw the line with culture, right? So I think that some of that culture comes from a misguided skill set through a false sense of training, right? So the argument always goes, well, we train to the highest sense of reality so we can run on the Fireground. And with that, we are at our peak performance when we get to a fire. I don't buy into that only because if you introduce extreme stress into the matter, you will not be able to perform. You will have automatic tunnel vision by rushing into that situation. By pausing and evaluating what's going on, you now have the ability to slow down to a calculated pace and finding the rhythm that works for you. Again, rhythm, tempo, cadence, pace, it all comes together for a flow state formula on the Fireground. Flow state formula is now where you show up later into the job, your additional unit, special unit you're coming in. You have to have the ability from listening to the radio transmissions, pulling up on arrival, seeing what's going on, and as you're getting close to the fire, hearing the Fireground conversations or the urgence going on, the maydays, all that. Now that dictates your tempo. So when you get off and something's going south, you know tempo's here. We have to hustle. We're jogging. We're at a fast pace. I'm not saying we're never running. I'm saying you have to adjust to the tempo of the fire. And that's all I'm getting at with this. And by slowing down for your routine fires is going to make you that much of a great fireman rather than just a good fireman. Good firemen run. Great firemen slow down, take it in, absorb it, and then act on instinct.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you. And you know, that's the tough thing with social media when you pose these questions, you can't put all the words and feelings and situations behind those. So you put these I put the poll up, and it was like, I think it was 30% said yes, 70% said no. But the same token, like that's just one sentence that everyone's looking at. We're not looking at all these variables.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I do think it's extremely important that the culture of the whole fire service has to analyze this, and it's something you need to talk up in your firehouses. Um, Across social media alone, sometimes I see videos out there that, yeah, it's cool for social media, but it's just not reality. Like, I've seen these guys like will stretch, they'll get off the pulp and engine, and they'll stretch like a pre-connected hose line or even deadlift, and they'll be running through a courtyard flaking out, and they got a guy chasing behind them with a camera because they want to get this awesome content to put out. And then, yeah, guys will be like, yeah, these are hard chargers, they're doing this, but you know what? In reality, that type of stretch is not happening, because you're stretching, you're making sure the guy behind you is ready. You should make sure the guy behind him is good. There's a lot more obstacles involved. In these videos that guys are taking, there's pre-planned out routes with very limited obstacles. Like, the guy knows which direction he's going to be running in. That's not happening on a fire ground. You show up to a building you've probably never been to before, or in your first tour, it could have been a building you've been to before, but maybe not 100% of the layout, or there's new obstacles there. Cars parked differently, garbage, construction, um, you know, so much different things that can be happening around buildings that you're even familiar with. You're not running into these things. You're definitely, especially when you're stretching a lot, you're moving at a certain pace, and you're definitely waiting for the guys behind you to be prepared. So you're working as a unit, because you're not getting that line to that location by yourself. You're getting that line to the location by teamwork, and you need your team to be all on the same page for that. So you don't see any running there. And then also the videos where the guys are trying to mask up as quick as they can. You know, they stand in front of the camera and they bang out this whole mask thing, a hood mask, everything out 13 seconds, and then it gets a crazy amount of views and likes and all that stuff. It's all well and good. It's great practice. I think it's awesome. Again, though, it's not reality. You're not in an environment where people are potentially screaming because of the fire conditions, civilians that are trapped, or guys are bumping into you, past you, taking a quick knee because you didn't knee in the right spot. Like, all this good stuff is great for practice, but what reality is that you got to come up with a way, especially for like masking up, that is regimented to you. Like, you come up with one certain style, and you will get more proficient at, like, smooth is fast. Like, that's one of the better things. Like, don't worry about being so quick at something. Worry about just doing it right and getting all your PPE on correctly. I know it's a little off tangent, but I think these topics kind of fall on top of each other, and I feel like a lot of it is social media driven. Now, back to just running on the Fireground, and that's basically what this topic is tonight, is that it's very situational based. I think each department, member, or company, or it's all going to change based off of what you are, what building you're going to, conditions on arrival, people trapped or not. You know, yeah, if somebody's hanging out a window and they're about to jump, and that's all they got, you're going to get off the rig and run to the back apartment to get a ladder, pull the ladder, and you're going to move really quickly and throw that ladder up as fast as you can. That's reality. We're not saying that don't do that. What we're trying to say is, you're getting off the rig and you got fire in a building. Just instead of running right to that front door and running in, just doing a search, take a second, look up, see what I have. Is there something oddball going on here, right? Can I get a look at one or two sides, or even three sides? Can I look at the four, the one, the two side real quick, and then kind of make my way in, mask up, and then operate. I think these are things that need to be discussed more, and not so much focused on like what the social media world is doing. And I know me and you are on the social media world, Mike, but we kind of try to do it from a perspective of showing what reality is on the Fireground and thought processes behind that. Not so much, I call it firefighting social media fluff that just kind of gets produced,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
likes, really.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going through enough fires to dial this in. to a science for every company, every department. And that's the honest truth. Two things before we take some people want to jump on maybe is for guys arriving later alarm special units, to find that rhythm, that tempo, that cadence I was talking about, to find that you can hustle at whatever level of hustle that tempo is, but when you're going to the fire building, moving towards that fire building, try to go to the opposite side of the block of the fire. So if the fire's here, move this way. That way, you are moving quickly, whatever that tempo is for you to get there, but you are sizing up as you're going, right? You're sizing up the movie set. It is essentially a movie you're going to. If you're coming down the fire block, that moth to the flame, the building's here, and you're coming this way because you want to get to the fire building closer and quicker, you're going to miss a lot of key factors. So there's just a way of, as you're hustling, you still can size things up as you're going by being the opposite side of the block. And if there's anyone newer in here that's never really been to a fire, never really had to do this, never had to make a decision or feel that adrenaline make them want to run or find that rhythm, tempo, and cadence. It's the same thing when you were in fire school and they time you getting dressed, right? Ready to go. And then you put your bunker pants on and your coat, and then you would fumble because you were rushing, right? And then the instructor would probably tell you slow is fast in this job, right? Take it slow, do your buckles right, do your pants right, and you'll be done quicker than the guy rushing. My opinion, same thing on the Fireground, especially with stretching. You see these engine companies stretching, running with the pre-connects over the shoulder through courtyards. Listen, if that's your culture, that great, that works for you. In my opinion, too many opportunities to make mistakes. And then when you actually get to the point of the threshold of the fire building, you're going to have no energy and you're going to suck through your cylinder. And then you can go on and on and on and say, well, we train to be in shape. We should all be in shape. That's great. But I'm in shape. And I've worked on the floor above of a fire, and my heart rate elevates because of stress. And I find myself breathing quicker, going through my cylinder. Mentally, you have to slow down, control your breathing, lower the heart rate, and maintain control. So there's no reason to get to that point unless you have to, unless people are hanging out the windows. So low heart rate is key. The lower we can keep our heart rate to the point where we put the face piece on and pass that threshold into the fire building, the better we're going to be in the long run, and we're going to be able to operate more proficient. It's proven scientifically. That's a whole different time, another other debate. But we're in this for 20 minutes. So what do you think if anybody wants to jump on? And either way, either support, go against, whatever it may be. I just want to kind of hear what the thoughts are around the country, around the world. And that's that. So just request to join in and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, we're going to be monitoring. If anyone wants to do it, just set it up. And then if this is my first time bringing in that third person, Mike will have to probably grab it.
Yeah,
but
it should just pop up in the comments and then you accept it. Not a big deal.
So if we're waiting for that, we'll kind of continue on. We'll continue on with some of the stuff. And also about that heart rate. There's a thing, if your heart rate gets too high, what happens is, and it goes back to this MPI, right? I don't know if you were able to take that course yet. Unfortunately, I have not been able to take it, but I know guys who do give it. It's a great program. The theory, the principles behind it, I stand behind. And a lot of it has to do, one of the things they talked about was once your heart rate gets too much, you almost start getting into this fog or tunnel vision, but you also have audio exclusion. You don't hear everything that you won't be processing to hear what you're hearing,
Yeah.
And I have definitely experienced that when in operations, where what happened to me was my training 100% kicked in, and nothing negative happened. But later on, I came back into it and said, yeah, you know what? I didn't hear that transmission, or no, I missed that little tidbit of stuff because I was in a moment of like higher heart rate. And I think that's what happened to me. I think I was having this almost like audio exclusion moment. I was so focused on the task at hand that I wasn't hearing this audio that was right by my ear. And normally I pick up a lot of transmissions because I try to purposely keep myself at a calmer level to actually try to decipher what is going on around me, especially what other members have. So, and that's the other thing too, as being a younger fireman, when I first got on, I think I had a lot more situations where back in the kitchen where we were drilling on and guys would bring up, hey, did you see this? Or, hey, did you see that? And I felt back then I had more times or cases where I probably said, no, I missed that. Or, no, I didn't see that. Or, man, I definitely missed that on the exposure or something like that. And I feel like as my career progressed and I did slow down and I did take more time to observe stuff, I feel like I'm saying that less and less. Listen, it still happens. None of us are perfect. But what happens is you're trying to prevent those moments. And anyone who's been fighting fire long enough, you've been there. You've been to a situation like, you know what, I didn't hear that. Nope, I missed that. And a lot of times it's because you probably have a higher heart rate. You're probably in the middle of the thick of it or doing something, and you're focusing so much on what is in front of you that your brain, even though it's processing it, you just don't remember it, type of thing. And that even happens with my own transmissions. I had to give transmissions in the past under, not just a higher stress level. And even though I gave the transmission, I wasn't 100% sure exactly how I worded it. And it wasn't until I heard the audio and I said, oh, wow, I did say it right, correct. But again, I didn't remember how saying it, but that's what training is. You're training to an extent where that your body can and your brain can get out the information you want in a clear-cut message, and you don't have to think that hard at it. And that's not just with verbal stuff. That's also forcing doors, throwing ladders. You want to get to a place where you're able to operate and you're able to do multiple tasks at once, and it becomes less effort. And when that happens, you don't need to rush everywhere. You don't need to run anywhere until you need to. And that's when your maydays kick in. That's when you have people trapped at windows or in rooms, and you got to start making more aggressive moves. The key to that, though, even under those moments of aggression, I call it, almost when you really got to make the move, you still have to figure out a way to remain calm and keeping your heart rate low. And listen, there's guys that are out there and they're athletes and they have low resting heart rates and they can do all this stuff, right? I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a guy that's going to go run a half marathon, a full marathon. I'm not that. But what you try to pride yourself on is you could put a guy that it can be really good in the gym, but if he can't control his emotions on the fire floor, his heart rate's still going to raise too. Yeah, it might not raise as high as somebody who's out of shape, but you still have to practice that. And unfortunately, yes, fires are down everywhere, and that also brings down the experience level. It takes a long time to get to a level, and we're all working for that. I'm still working for that. We're all students at this. No one's at the pinnacle. We're constantly trying to get better. How can I be better on the Fireground? How can I be more calm? What mistakes have I made in the past? How can I build off of that? And the only way that you could really do it, especially with fires being down, is you have to try to, in training, challenge each other to get as many different situations or situation-based, like different levels of it, to be exposed to it. So like, all right, so you had some type of element, some exposure to that. And now when it really happens in real life, you kind of maybe experience some of the characteristics of it, maybe not all the variables to it, but you experience enough of it, like, okay, this is what worked in training. Let me try to duplicate this, and now just see what's happening in front of me, and let me try to remain calm and keep operating. What happens is most guys lose their calm when everything they try, it keeps failing, and now they start to get into that, like, that downward spiral of like panicking and stuff, and that's where it's not a good place. You got to try to take a step back and take that deep breath. So now we got all this stuff into play, everything I just said. If you ran full speed to the building, your heart rate is already through the roof. Do you think you really can do all that other stuff with a high heart rate right out of the gate? So you try not to. You try to get to your positions in a timely manner without jacking yourself up too much, because you want to be prepared for when things start changing, when things start going south.
Yeah. Guys, don't feel shy. Somebody jump in here and we'll discuss this. But just branching off what you said, I think what we kind of have not lost, but I don't think that the generation today, coming from the generations before us, because of training, hot classes, social media, all these things, we've lost the idea, or I don't think that we've even lost. We have never grasped the fact that we're not necessarily task oriented. The main objective is water on the fire and lives saved. So we get caught up in the sense that we have to run with the line to the door quickly because our task is to get from point A to point B. The point A is from the rig with the line to the front door with the line, right? Or we throw a ground ladder, portable ladder up very quickly and to the right spot. But that's not your task. You have to remember you're throwing that ground ladder as a bridge to gain position on the fire. That's the ultimate goal, not throwing that ladder. That should become natural, right? So these are the things we're forgetting. Unfortunately, fire duty down, like we said, This isn't so natural to us anymore. These are things that's getting overlooked. So because of that, we train to throw ground ladders, to stretch, right? But these are, again, a task within many tasks of the ultimate goal of putting water on the fire and saving lives. So let's not get caught up in the reps on the doors, the reps on the portable ladders, the reps on stretching. All great stuff, but let's not lose sight. They're just gaps to achieving position on the ultimate goal of putting water on the fire. Um, that said, going back to that rhythm, flow, tempo, cadence, that all falls into key to gaining position. Whatever that takes to gain position, that's what you have to do. You said earlier about how when you were a young fireman, you would forget basic things, or did you hear that? I didn't hear it. Now you're in, you're now in tune with what you hear, and I think that comes from just understanding that it's overwhelming, right? So you're in a position where you don't have probies. I have probies. I have young firefighters I work with. And you get back in the rig and say, "Did you have a fire escape in the throat?" And they look at you, uh, and they don't know. But I know for a fact I watch them look up and size it up because I teach them to look up and size it up. I know they did it, but when you question them, they forget because they were so focus driven on what I have to be is keeping up with the boss, even on Ghastly, understanding I have to get my pliers out without fumbling because everyone's watching me, turning the gas off, all basic stuff that over time becomes natural when you lose that fear of just being embarrassed. So sizing up on the fly is a part of all this. When you're running and running and running, you're not learning the basics of just slowing down and taking it all in, right? So just a couple of things to touch on, branch off what you said. Um, I'm kind of what's going on. I had a million DMs on how everyone runs, but no one wants to talk about it now. So,
Well, sometimes what happens is maybe those guys didn't get on yet. Maybe they're coming, but also sometimes people are like, I don't know if I want to put my face out there, and it's totally understandable. And listen,
I know that, yeah,
me and Mike dealt with this. We set up
for
these
years.
in the past, and when we first did it, it wasn't about getting my name out there or my face out there. It was about sharing content. So we totally get it. This is still a learning process for me and Mike. So if someone like, listen, there's people watching. It's not I think we're at maintaining right around 100. I get it if you don't want to put your face out there.
I think it's just something you and we've talked about for years together, and we would laugh because we would encourage each other to do it, and then you would do it, and then you would feel like guilty afterwards. Whatever. It's a really weird thing putting your face out there, but it's at the point now where it's just the way it is. If you want to get this content out there and you want to make the fire service a better place, it's kind of the route you have to go. But for you, for many years, I mean, you're the godfather of it. So you've been doing it for a long, long time before you put your face on it.
Pages around a lot longer than I have. We kind of do it a little bit different from our perspective, and I definitely do want to do more live videos. There's a lot more topics to definitely talk about. Some of the fires that we had throughout the city are interesting enough in themselves, and each of them can have their own thing. I know we talked about earlier, and kind of just want to stick with this topic for tonight. So we'll try to get that for the future. But back to what you just said about asking the probie, is there a fire escape in the throat? Even where I'm at, even when I had just around 10 years on, we still had guys on EMS runs and bullshit runs get in. And after, when you're inside the building, you're done and you're getting back in the rig and you drive away, one of the guys would question, hey, how many stories was that building? The apartments, was it transverse or not? Was it isolated stairs? Did you catch how many elevators there were? And the thing what happens is you get put on the spot in the back of the rig, and it's all that stuff is like, oh shit, maybe I wasn't on my game. Now you kind of like do that, and now guys are constantly always on their game. They're constantly looking, even on the bullshit runs, and you don't want to be the guy that gets caught in that question. What does it do? It makes us look up at buildings more. It makes us analyze the situations that we're walking into and assessing it. A lot of companies are not a fan of building inspection. I use it at, like, listen, that's a forced time period where we can go out and look at some of the buildings in our area that are going to potentially be problems for us if they go on fire. So let's get into those. Let's really break them down. Let's look at the roof. Let's look at access, egress. What happens if we have a fire, basement, first floor, second, here? What are the potential easy things about this building? What's the potential real big problems with this building? And how are we going to tackle them? Where are we going to place the apparatus? Where's the closest hydrant? How many lengths do you think it's going to make it to the top floor? You know, all these questions get spit out on just simple building inspection. Yeah, you might not enjoy that time period, but it's probably some of the best learning you're going to do, and it eventually comes around in full circle. You will eventually catch a fire in a building that you've been in before, and you hopefully sized it up prior to, and it's going to be worth its weight in gold. I'll remember another job I had that in the past that bit me in the ass that I didn't do because I was kind of new to my new positions. And long story short, I was always, it was an H type, wound up going to a fourth alarm and getting on scene. We got tasked with, searching apartments on the fire floor. And in the past, if I was if I was comfortable, I would have definitely tried to take a look at the layout on the floor below before going up to that floor. But because I was new to a certain spot and I wanted to like get there, and not so much about running per se, but like just making the position as quick as possible, I went against my own little practices and doing that little peek out on the floor below. I was definitely not familiar with the building I was operating in. I get up there and I start searching down the public hallway, and I realize, conditions are lights out, not a lot of heat, but I'm crawling for quite a distance, and I'm realizing this hallway is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. And after all said and done, and it actually slowed down my search because now I'm like starting to question it. Got that little voice in your back of your head, like, what's going on here? This isn't normal. You haven't found any windows yet, or doors. Why is this? Where's this other elevator? Where's these apartment doors? Why is this wall so long? After the fire was done, and I actually was able to look, it was a T-shaped building. It fronted on two streets, and the public hallway in the front, the T where we came in, it was a very short building, but the leg of the T was extremely long, a lot longer than other buildings. It fronted on two streets, and if I would have just stuck my head at the stairwell on the floor below, I would have had so much more confidence in searching down that hallway. Mind you, we got the job done. It wasn't that like things went south, but it definitely made me appreciate taking a moment to take that look down that hallway and say, all right, it's a lot longer hallway. Now, when I start making this search, I'm going to be like, no, I know what I'm expecting. It's a long hallway. It's going to be a long one. It's not going to be like, if anyone crawled in zero visibility before, crawling in 15 feet might feel like 50 yards, feels like you're crawling for quite a distance and now if you're actually crawling 20 yards and you're like, all right, this feels like, might as well feel like a mile, so, having a little bit of an idea of what you're crawling into and then I know not everyone on here has these type of buildings that I'm talking about, these non-fireproof H types, or even fireproof multiple dwellings where we potentially try to look at the layout on a floor with similar make but has no smoke on it. It just helps give us a little bit of a mental image of what we're getting to. Again, I didn't run on that job, but I definitely didn't do my normal standing practices. I rushed to my position because I was trying to prove myself. But essentially what it did was it did slow me down in the long run.
Yeah.
So
Just something you want to touch. I want to touch on something just for our job, real quick, because I know we have some guys in here. Real quick, not to lose anyone, go down a rabbit hole like this, but because of COVID, building inspection, right? We paused that for, how long? 2 years, just about. Really, we weren't really doing buildings for a long time. So building inspection for us, we go out 3 times a week, whatever, and we do our thing and we inspect buildings. We stopped that and we paused that. So what I'm getting at, especially for the younger guys coming on the job, we didn't really truly have the 3-day of BI to get out there and really look at these buildings, not fully understanding how detailed we were looking at these buildings. We had time to kill. We were forced to be out there. We were all out there doing it. It sucks, but we did it. Now, you really got to question the SIDS because you pull up, it's been years now of us not updating SIDS. Things change. So don't always trust the SIDS is what I'm getting at. On arrival, first two companies, yeah, SIDS, you read it, but really it's the outside team reading it, not so much the inside team. We have an objective is go locate the fire, find the fire, extinguish the fire. Outside team accessing the roof, the OB to the rear, all these little things. They're more in tune with the SIDS, but don't trust them is what I'm saying. So take the opportunity on gas leaks, water leaks, whatever it may be. Read the SIDS and then cross-reference it when you get there in a slow manner when you have time to do that, because too many times I see guys trust the SIDS and now they're wrong because they're outdated. SIDS is outdated. That's it. I want to get off that little thing, but now that I know we have some guys from our job on
Yeah,
there. I just want to cover that.
aren't on our job. SIDS is critical information data. It's essentially pre-planned information. It allows us to only put in so many words or so many characters in a short little paragraph that comes on the ticket. So if we get dispatched to a building or sent to a building, on that ticket, the SIDS information, the critical information for that building might come up at the bottom, and it just tells us some of the potential hazards or issues or things that we might come across at that building, usually found on building inspection. The other thing too is, Mike, did you notice that they've added the date to it on there? So on the SIDS on the ticket, you'll see it says like I'm not sure. It's got to be a little while now, but it's there. It says SIDS last update or SIDS. I'm not sure of the exact verbiage of it, but it definitely has the date of when it was last updated. So again, some of those you look at, they're back far, but some of them are fairly recent. But just like you said, a lot of them are pre-COVID stuff, and God knows, with probably a lot of inspections, like everything slowing down because work's slowing down, there's probably some real fugazi things going on in these buildings that we don't even know about, especially because, listen, think about yourself at home. When everybody was working and you come home, the next thing you would come home and you would work on your house. There was nothing else to do during the height of the pandemic. So don't think that these landlords all of a sudden found the opportunity, like, all right, well, now's the time to let's start renovating this building now because nothing else is going on. So they did the same thing. So changes happened everywhere. So it's just something to take into consideration.
And these renovations were happening with no inspections because inspections were canceled as well, as far as building inspection. All these guys are just people just doing stuff. Everyone was locked away, so it was like kind of a crazy time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thank you. One of the guys wrote in here. It's as of, and then it has the date. So that's how the verbiage is on the SIDS. Let's see. There was some other questions that came up. First of all, before we got like a little less than 20 minutes left. Before we leave the running thing on the Fireground, does anyone have any questions on that? Anything that still isn't put into the comments, or still request to talk? We'll jump on and you can tell us what your thoughts are. Also, let's take a look at there was a couple other questions that popped up. If you have a question, you can throw in the comments. We're trying to stay on this topic, but if you got something that we can tackle quickly, we will. Here's a question. If a backdraft is happening in a single dwelling building, is it best for the truck company to create ventilation for the engine company as if it does cause a flashover, or am I wrong? So again, single dwelling building, it all depends on, this question's got a couple different things. I'm not exactly sure what you mean. As far as backdraft goes, if you have the backdraft and flashover are two separate things. A backdraft conditions don't cause a flashover. A flashover is essentially everything in the room finally meeting that final ignition temperature and all pretty much lighting off at once. It has everything it needs, including oxygen, fuel. Everything's ready to go, and everything's heating up. Our areas are heating up, and everything just kind of lights off. Backdraft is actually a lot different than that. Backdraft is a fire that's starved of oxygen. It's got everything it needs as far as fuel, heat. It's got extremely high heat. All that's so good to go. Problem it doesn't have enough oxygen. So what happens is we come on scene, we ventilate this improperly, and then we could potentially cause a backdraft, which is a different type of explosion. To vent a backdraft, actually, you would vent it from, say it's a roof of a one-story commercial. You'll do a vertical ventilation, if you can recognize it, instead of doing a horizontal ventilation. Because you want to try to release as much as that heat as possible prior to opening it up. By potentially opening it on horizontal, you're introducing oxygen way too quickly. So that's kind of that question. I hope I answered to the best of my ability. The wording was different. You don't really see too many backdrafts in a private dwelling per se or residential building. You see them more in tightly sealed up commercial occupancies. Also, a lot of times guys get into discussions about backdraft, flashover, smoke explosion. All to me are all different things. You know, a smoke explosion is actually when the fuel in the smoke. So smoke is fuel when that lights off, right? Smoke explosion can happen in different parts of the building. It can happen in a cockloft explosion, right? That's a smoke explosion in a cockloft. We call it a cockloft explosion. Um, Again, that can happen. A smoke explosion can happen in any tight void that can be near the fire or remote. It has all the conditions present, and all it needs is the right ignition source at the right time, and all the smoke in that compartment will light up, causing that compartment to be highly pressurized. And if it's tight enough, it will blow, and it potentially will blow down. It'll blow down ceilings. It could blow out. It could blow out windows. All that stuff. There's some really good content out there. I mean, post content now. It wasn't good the days it happened, but now it's out on there. You can Google or search. I posted on my page before about smoke explosions, and there's one, different things in Queens. There's different times and backdrafts happen. We try to point them out which one is which. Guys like to sometimes intermingle them. And again, listen, I'm not the one that making up these definitions. I'm just what was given to us as definitions as we through our firefighting career. I interpret that information and I try my best to relate it to the situation that I'm seeing in front of me. Are there times that you might misconstrue a smoke explosion for a backdraft? Yeah, because we might not really know why that went off or how it blew or what caused it to blow. But these characteristics as like clues led to this reasoning of why we decided it was potentially this. In any case, backdraft or smoke explosion, you're having a violent act on the fire ground, right? And again, one more thing with the backdrafts is backdrafts have another key thing to it that they're usually happening before we're there or we're getting on scene and the building is actually starving for air and conditions that have been present before, almost like pulsating windows, windows moving because of the heat and airflow, smoke leaving a structure and getting sucked back in through cracks. Smoke color has changed. Windows completely stained where you can't see in because everything pretty much inside has high heat. It's like a giant oven. All it needs for everything to light back off again is all that fuel's not burnt. It's ready to go. It just needs oxygen, and that's that violent light up of what a backdraft is. All right. What else you got, Mike? Anything on that?
Yeah, so that was a very in-depth scientific analogy. Very good. Um, so,
Delta Whiskey says that I think the request button isn't working.
oh,
That could be it. Listen, guys, we
you know
are.
what? I'll add him in a second. I'll go back and find him. Let me just follow up what you just said there real quick, just to kind of loop back to the running, right? So everyone talks about running. It's about them. It's their time. It's not our time. Blah blah blah. I get that. Of course, it's them. That shouldn't even be a conversation, but apparently that's something that has to be clarified in today's fire service. Aside from that, understanding that time is in fact a tool in the Fireground. By now, if you're slowing down, and now that tempo, right, that cadence is we're slowing down, we're pulling up, middle of the night, taxpayer buttoned up, possible backdraft. Again, timing in life is everything, and we can never control timing, unfortunately, just the way life is, especially on the Fireground. So to answer that question is how do you attack that or do that? You really don't. But the key factor is slowing down, like Darren said, looking at the smoke stain windows, right? The pulsating building, it's ready to light up. These are the things by just using time as a tool. Time is a tool either way. You can go fast or slow. These are times, especially taxpayers, commercial buildings for other people in the country, is to slow down. We should never be running at a taxpayer. Only time you're running at a taxpayer is running off the roof when it's about to cave in or it's going to collapse on you. The only time you're running at a taxpayer to get away from it, never to run into it. Again, calculated risk at these fires. But let me go back to.
Yeah, see, it was Delta Whiskey. I know he was trying to.
All right, let me see here. Questions. Let me see. I think you have to add them, Darren, maybe. So if you go up and hit your. Oh, I can do it. I can do it.
Okay, yeah, give it a shot. While we're waiting, one of the guys asked.
What's his name? Delta Whiskey?
Yeah, I think it's Delta _ Whiskey. Let's see if it works.
You can tackle that other question while I figure out how to do this.
Yeah, I'm scrolling back. I wish there's got to be a way that I could also like look at these. Hey, if anyone's really good with this Instagram live stuff, if you know how to take the comments that I'm seeing and put them on like a different device while I'm on this one, please DM me because I think that would help drastically.
That's hardcore right there.
I don't know if it's possible, but
So listen, why don't you go hit your name and drop it down and see if you can add people.
okay. In this room, who's watching? Add Delta Whiskey to live video. Go live. I hope he's
There you
ready.
go.
Well, I don't know if it's going to kick you off, Mike, but we'll try.
No, it won't. It'll bring us to three of us.
Okay, I requested him. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because you started it, you have to do it. I could not do it.
Hey, bro, what's up?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we figured it out. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know you posted it. I saw it on your stories earlier. We appreciate the support and the feedback that you give. And I also saw your opinion on it. But for those who didn't, just tell us your opinion on it, and we'll take it from there.
Well, honestly, I think you guys nailed it with kind of the context of the Fireground. You know, if somebody's dangling out of that window, then yeah, the tempo is going to get picked up, and you're going to move a little quicker than just a walk. But if it's your regular room and contents with no life at stake, then you know we're not running. We're moving with urgency, but we're not running at that point.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is, usually when we post this information to the masses, you know, our target audience, who we're talking to, is very rarely the senior guys. Like, listen,
Right.
there's guys in our departments that don't even have, like, they still have flip phones. They don't even know what Instagram is,
Right.
and they're wealth of knowledge. But when we post stuff on here, and a lot of it might seem basic to some people, and it's because we're trying to target the audience on here that's younger, that's either just getting on the job, that might have a little bit of time on a job, or looking just to even go the route of being a fireman. And the thing is, like, trying to tell guys, like, listen, you might see a guy get off the rig and run, but you know, why is he doing that? Is it a calculated reason, or is he just running into a building just because he's trying to be the quickest there? Like, we're asking guys to be proactive in their careers and ask the questions and then formulate their own response. And the thing is, what me and Mike are trying to do is try to give more people just more tools, more avenues to think and start this dialogue. And the more times we talk about it, the better we're all going to be. So, yeah, it's a loaded question. By means, there was no definitive yes or no answer. And
Right,
that's
absolutely.
but these questions like this, because it gets it's almost like team yes, team no. And it's like, let's go at it. And I know Mike got funneled with a bunch of direct messages, which is good, because at the end of the day, it's getting people talking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a good topic, and I think a lot of guys just hear the question, you know, do we or don't we run on the Fireground, and they don't have the context to go with, hey, take the 5 seconds or the couple of seconds to formulate your opinion on why or why not you're going to run.
Right. And you know, it seems like it's just it's an easy thing, but once you start adding variables in, it's not, because there's just too many of them, and there's too many different types of buildings, response areas, manpower. You know, here's another thing too. If I'm working in my department and we have a lot of manpower, if I decide to run in this building and my 2 eyes and my 2 brain miss something, I have a lot of other guys that are out front or coming to or around, and they're observing, and maybe they will catch it, and they will put on the radio, and I'll hear it, and I'm like, okay. For members operating in departments with a lot less manpower, where you're coming on scene and now your role is a lot more important because there is less people, every little thing that you miss can be a drastic change in the overall operation. You know, and I just kind of want to say that again, like, for a small engine pulling up on a scene, if the nozzle and backup, say it's nozzle backup and the officer, all right, I'm not sure what all departments have. So let's say it's that. They have a chauffeur, they have an officer, and they have a nozzle and backup. So 4 members on that. If they all run and they don't really get a good size up of this building, and now second 2 engines going to be way out, the truck's still way out, and you're going to be operating on your own for a little bit, you know, the only other guy you have outside that potentially might have eyes on this building, or whatever size up you guys missed on your rush in, is your chauffeur. he's going through the 5 minutes of panic to make sure that you guys have a water source, that he's giving you proper pressure and all this other stuff. And finally, when he gets that deep breath, and finally, like, all right, I got my job done. They got the right pressures. They're operating. Let me turn around and look at this building and go, hey, guys, did you see this? You know, did you miss this?
Right.
Or all of a sudden he can see something like, you guys shouldn't be in there for whatever reason, or stuff like that. So that's the whole
Right.
thing. Is like, just think about it. For people operating small departments, when you're not afforded the manpower, you have to realize what you see and what your brain processes is so important to that overall fire operation. For departments that have a lot more manpower, we get lucky in the fact that we have a lot more eyes and a lot more brains operating around this building, that if anything I miss, hopefully they pick up and they can tell me. You know, so it's just another food for thought when you get in these conversations in the firehouse, like, hey guys, you know, they did bring up a good point. Maybe we should slow down just a little bit in the sense that we're the only ones coming for a while. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Just
No.
to branch off that real quick, small departments, you always talk about the rotting position, right? So I was on a thing with fire engineering a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about positioning and how small departments, can we have positioning or not have positioning. I truly believe that you should have positioning, but more so not actually a position as like the can man, the irons, the OV, the roof, but understanding that quadrants of a building has to be covered to size it up. That should be the positioning. Again, understanding where you fit in is that everyone has to understand that, okay, I'm going to look at the rear, you're going to look at exposure 1, you're going to look at exposure 2, and then you break it down. So if I know that I'm not getting a report from the rear, that I know that Darren didn't make the rear, you know, all these things by understanding positioning in these small departments, everyone has to cover that building. I know it's hard when you have one guy stretching a line and the officer's helping him and the chauffeur's going 3 miles from water. I get that, but we have to cover all sides of this building, and that's what understanding positioning, yes, is important, but we have to understand what the other guy's position is, because if he doesn't do it, you have to make up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Delta, what's your first name again? Is it Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
Dan. Did you right before Mike talked? Did you have another thought to add to what I was saying, or?
Yeah, no, just real quick. Let's say you do start running and you miss something. That time you tried to save is going to end up costing you minutes in the long run. So yeah, context is key. You know, small department, large department, it doesn't matter. You got to take the time to formulate your size up, the scene, and then go from there.
Right. And you know, life is priority. And I know what you posted, and you hit the nail on the head. You pull up and you have good fire conditions with a woman hanging out the window ready to go. Yeah, you're going to run. You're running to the rig. You're going to get your ladder and you're going to run to her. It's going to happen. That's not what we're saying. You know, there's a time and place for everything. It's just what is the reason behind that movement? And, you know, obviously you just have to justify your actions. The biggest thing is that don't allow yourself to get into a situation where you're allowing this tunnel vision to happen because you're worried about making time. You know, that's where we're getting at.
Yeah.
Dan, why don't you tell everyone where you're from?
Pasco, Florida.
Where's that in Florida? What area of Florida?
Tampa, a little north of Tampa, like 30 minutes north.
That's right where my cousin lives. He lives in Tarpon Lake.
Tarpon Springs?
Tarpon Springs, yes.
Yeah.
Are you getting this cold weather too at all, or no? What's cold for you, like 30 degrees?
Well, below 60 is cold for us. That's why I got the jacket on. You know.
What you guys had today?
When we woke up, it was like 40-something, but
yeah,
we got to the 60s today.
The other day, we were in the teens, and looks like the next week is going to be sustained cold weather. Like, we're talking about teens and 20s.
Right. See, we shut down all operations when that happens. We just, sorry about your luck.
Yeah, there's no running anywhere. There's only running
exactly
inside the firehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, Dan, I appreciate you coming on. We're probably going to be doing more topics in the future. Please feel free to jump on at any time and share. Yeah. You know, again, this is not about us making a name for ourselves. It's just about us just sharing, firemen sharing information. So
no, it's awesome.
We appreciate the support you give to both pages, and stay safe out there.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you.
So yeah, if anyone else is having issues coming on, and Dan, you don't have to leave if you don't want. You could stay until someone else wants to come on. But
we could do 4. We're at the hour mark, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. All
how
right,
much
so
more
we're
we
going to
have.
start wrapping it up anyway. I
Yeah,
finally found that one question. Hey, Dan, you can stay on for this one question if you want. We'll try to answer this for this guy.
Sure.
He said, what can I practice to stay calm, like working on practicing staying calm without having too much experience on the fire ground? So he's trying to build off of what I said. You know, like the end game is to try to remain calm in a lot of circumstances or scenarios you're in. I think it's the best skill set a fireman can have if he can remain calm, you know, under a high level of stress, because that's when you can make some of the best decisions. If you could do that, because when you do lose that kind of aspect, you know, you start, you know, I call it like circling down the drain. Your thoughts and
Right.
processing start making bad decisions. So his end question was, what could I do to help that? And my quick answer would be, listen, if you can't get the experience in reality, the only thing you could do is try to add levels of stress in training. And when I say that is you come up with trainings that you wind up doing, and say it's firefighter removal or something else, and you start getting proficient at that. Now we have to try to step up the bar and add more variables to that. All right, we're going to make you do this situation, but the next time we do it, we're going to be giving you more background radio transmissions, or we're going to have guys over remotely operating with saws and making a louder environment. So that brings up your level. So now it's like you keep on adding these variables to your training that slowly increase over time to not make that skill set more challenging. Like you're still trying to do, let's use, for example, again, Fireground, we're still trying to remove this guy from this room out, but now there's more external variables. Is more radio traffic in my mic. Guys are like having a dialogue. You can almost write like a script. You have power tools running nearby. That adds up stuff. So you're trying to create all this dynamic. And then the real thing is, if you can go to the highest level of what most realistic training could be, is taking that same thing you've been practicing for so long and now trying to add it into a controlled live fire event where they can be, and that would be the closest thing you could potentially get to reality. But even with that, we all know it's impossible to create real fireground dynamics. We could try our best to get there, but it's almost impossible to get real fireground dynamics in a training thing. So what we could do is just try to add as many elements or variables to up the stress level, all keeping safety in mind. You know, training is it should be the realm where you should freedom for failure. I love this term where it says freedom. Where can I
Right.
fail? I can fail in training, because if I fail in
Yeah.
training, I'll learn from it. So freedom for failure should happen in training, but we should be building the stress level up there so you can try to work in high stress and try to remain calm and build on that. So what do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think are other avenues that they can potentially work on that? You know.
Well, like you said, nothing mimics real world experience. Like there's nothing you're gonna do on the training ground even that's gonna mimic the real world experience. Um, but my first thing that I would tell anybody is, honestly, when you feel yourself getting that level of stress or getting that anxious or anxiety, is to try to control your breathing, because your
boom.
heart rate's going to be elevated, and just take a second to like really take some deep breaths, slow deep breaths, and then formulate the next step. Because that, I don't think everybody has felt that level of anxiety. You know, you start breathing fast, you know what's going on. You really have to tell yourself, like, look, slow down, take a breath, hold it for a second, and then go about it.
That's
Great, Dan. You took the words out of my mouth. Um,
Cool.
okay, I thought we froze up. Yeah. So to branch off what both of you guys said is pausing.
Yeah.
That pausing and breathing are two things that get overlooked in the fire ground. We don't teach it in the fire academies.
No, we don't.
First thing you do every time you get off that rig, you should pause. Now, when I say pause, again, this isn't like running. I'm not saying sprint or crawl. It's just a quick split second to stop, take a breath. And when that breath is, it's a split second of recalculation of, now you're off the rig, you're taking in all your senses, you're seeing what's going on, you're orientating yourself what's going on, you're observing what's going on, right? It's the OODA loop. If you don't know what OODA loop is, it's from an Air Force pilot who calculated in words the moments before he launches a missile. It's a very experienced fighter pilot. Carry over to the Fireground, I added pause and breathe to it because I really think on the Fireground we don't have time. Like in the air with a fighter pilot, you're launching that missile, boom, it's done. It's happening very quickly. With us, we should be slowing down and then pausing and breathing and observing and going. Um, but the breathing is the key thing. Like I said earlier, learning how to force a door is a technique, stretching a line is a technique, cutting a roof is a technique that is not taught for whatever reason in the basics of the fire service of Firefighter 1, 2, or 3. Probably any academy in the country, except for maybe our academy down when we're starting to dabble with it a bit, is breathing technique. And that's the most key technique because everything else we do is a bridge to get to position on the fire, where breathing
Right.
starts from the moment you receive the alarm, laying in the bunk, tones go off, boom, you're breathing. Phone alarm fire. Now you're really breathing. Coming down the stairs, you're getting dressed. Now, that's why I start my breathing techniques. I start box breathing. Then on the rig, I'll do some skip breathing just to lower your heart rate. You read the SIDS. Now I'm doing skip breathing. And now I get off the rig. I'm pausing. Now I'm doing box breathing again. Now I go into a moment where my anxiety is high. I'm not sure of my move, what my next move may be. Shit is on. It's hot. I'm not sure. Maybe. Skip breathe. Now skip breathe lowers heart rate. Think clearly. Correct. Back to box breathing. These are techniques that you learn over time. It's not taught in the academy, but you have to take the time to develop it. Door reps on the big blue door is great. Hot training at FDIC is great, awesome stuff. But take the time in your car when you're sitting in traffic or watching TV with your wife or girlfriend just to practice your breathing techniques. Because ultimately, in the end, that's going to lower your heart rate and make you a great firefighter rather than the good firefighter. They went to all those classes, learned all those techniques. The great firefighter will outlast the good firefighter because they're breathing.
Well, I think why it's not taught in Fire Academy is because it's like teaching a Lamaze class. Like
Yeah.
no guy in Fire Academy wants to be taught how to breathe first. Like we want to get the irons and go kick down some doors. Nobody wants to be taught how to breathe because it's not masculine. So
Yeah, you're right.
Like maybe the first challenge you got when you got to a firehouse is maybe like, hey, listen, go on whatever size cylinders you guys have. Hey, go on there and see how long you can last. Suck that bottle dry, and might be. And I know we did different things in our Proby school as far as like going into that burn building and trying to get as low as you can, suck the air through the pavement, and dealing with different stuff.
Yeah, baby. Team 6.
Yeah, you try to like get these different things, but like again, I think we're getting better at that angle, especially because of like even that MPI training stuff and understanding. And this is all coming. This is all stuff that was brought to the fire service basically through the military. How soldiers operate at extremely high levels under extremely high stress, life and death decisions in fractions of a second, how they control themselves and continue to operate. We're trying to take that information and then put it into the fire service, which we all also are making decisions under high stress in life or death environments. Might not be to the sense of every time these guys go out they can literally get shot at and they have to shoot, or even worse, a fire pilot who's flying at whatever G-force they're at and their body's taking a beating, and then they still have to make a split decision on what my next move is, and they have to go by what they're trained, so it's almost natural. Like we're trying to take that information, how do these guys do it, and how can we adapt it to us, so when shit hits the fan for me on the Fireground, how I can make the best decision for me and the guys around me and make a positive outcome out of this. So that's where it's at.
What you just said, I wanted to just touch on real quick, is that how we're transforming from military to the Fireground. And I love the transformation, more so in the leadership level rather than the positioning level. In the military, no, I'm not a vet. I'm not at all. I have friends, obviously, we all do. But there's no time for them to gain position. They're taking cover a lot of times on infantry, right? I would think that we're taking cover more than gaining position. It's just unless you're on a mission, you're taking cover rather than gaining position. With us, we're not taking cover, we're gaining position. So it's completely reversed. It's the same mindset, which we're not really talking about. Everyone's like, oh, it's a paramilitary. We're taking the Navy SEAL mindset, the Ranger mindset, the Green Beret mindset, and bringing it to the fire service. It's great. I truly love that, but I don't think it's really dialed into what we're doing because we're always gaining position on the final outcome, where then they're taking cover. So
Mike,
The mindset side of it, I like.
careful
What's
that
that?
you tell SEAL he's not taking position. He's only taking cover. They're probably going to come find where you're at and they come kick your ass.
No,
I'm just going to
I,
put that out there. What
or
do you
maybe
think, Dan? You think?
maybe the special forces
Uh,
are different, but I'm talking basic infantry.
I don't
Basic
know. I don't know,
infantry,
Mike. I
right?
don't know if I can go with you there. Listen, timestamp 9:09. I did not agree with Mike's statements. You SEALs in the chat. You kick his door down.
All right, so I'll take back the special forces, but basic infantry, I feel like maybe they're taking cover more than getting position. What I'm getting at is we're not getting shot at. We have a chance to get into the right position without
Right.
getting shot. Fireballs are not being thrown at us, is what I'm saying at.
Yes.
So we have time to slow down a bit. Where in the military, I think it's a very progressively forward or reverse action to gain ground. Right? You back up sometimes, take cover, gain ground, then move. I think with us, it's constantly moving forward on position, you know?
Yeah.
I think too, to that point, like as the fire department's being paramilitary, we should lean more on the veterans in the fire departments because they have that experience and they have that type of leadership. And I can speak for my department. I don't think we lean hard enough on them to glean what they've learned through their experiences in the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Navy, and then put that into practice being a paramilitary organization.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. From our job, one organization stands out for me. It's Leadership Under Fire. It's run by guys that are, that were in the military, and their training is absolutely exceptional. They go around and they do different talks. You definitely look into them. But that was just one area. There are plenty of other ones out there. It's just one that comes off my head. Dan, have you heard of them before?
Who was it?
Leadership Under Fire.
No.
Yeah. So they're out there. I just don't know if they push it that hard, but their knowledge is top notch, and their instructor base, the instructors are top notch. It's a great thing to have going on.
Cool. Wrote it down.
So, all right, Dan, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said before, definitely come on more. A lot of guys like to talk to Mike in the DMs, but they don't really want to come on and talk to Mike in face. But
That was the whole thing. I got a million DMs, and you're the only guy that popped on the message.
You know what, though? Listen, he tried to request, it didn't work, so we just got to go with that. They tried, it didn't work.
Right. Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
There you go. That's the right brotherly thing to do, Mike.
Yeah. Let's start talking about peak roof style. Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Dan. I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it, fellas.
Yep.
All right, David, going.
All right, Mike, you want to wrap this up? Or
Yeah, I guess that's it, man. I mean, we're 9. I don't know when this cuts off. It used to be an hour. I guess they extended it maybe. I don't really know anymore.
Yeah.
But you got anything going on coming up or anything?
From my end?
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, we have it next week. Listen, for everyone, we always talk about different things. We always talk about how important roll call is. To me, I'm always looking at the weather. A week out, right? We're always looking at the future. Next week's going to be extended cold. Extended cold period of time lead to more people potentially using space heaters. As more days extend, like the first day is like, it's cold, I'll deal with it. I'll throw some blankets on, or I'll do this or I'll do that. What happens when you have extended cold periods of time, after a couple nights of cold, they just, they just say, I can't take this anymore. You know what? I'm going to go out and buy that space heater. I'm going to go out and get this thing. I'm going to do something to heat this apartment because I just can't take this anymore. And listen, we've seen everything from, I've actually been to a fire where the woman put logs in her oven, thinking that she could heat her apartment with logs in the oven. I'm not even joking. I can't even make that up. Like,
that's Bronx shit right there.
Yeah. So the thing is, basically what happened was it didn't really make, we got there and we were like, well, it was like, all right, what is it? It's like it smells like, no, it's wood burning. Like, what's going on here? And you go in the kitchen, you open the thing, it's like, boom. It's like, she's got 4 logs in her oven. Like, they didn't all go on fire, but they just started to off gas and started to slowly start to burn. And I was like, this is a first for me. So the thing is, Mike, I love how one of the last, all right, guys, we're going to wrap up. And then a question. Lithium-ion batteries, thoughts?
What's the name? I don't see the comments. What's the name?
Nick 60.
I don't know. I thought someone was breaking my balls.
I feel like 1 out of every 4 fires lately involve them.
Listen, we'll do that. Let's do that next week. Maybe
All right,
we'll
so
talk about
listen,
that.
we're gonna schedule another date and time. It is a huge topic. Right now, Mike has been covering it. I've been seeing it from a couple different angles. The lithium-ion batteries, they're here to stay. The problem is only going to get worse. Christmas just happened. Everyone just bought their kids the next round of the next latest product that have these batteries in them. They're a real concern. I heard this was a mine that someone came up with. These are the new candle, like the invention of the candle, and the candle caused fires back in the day. Well, now this is the new, the new candle.
It's worse because it's this is for a whole nother topic, but
it's its own fuel source. It's everything it needs.
yeah,
It's a fuel supply. It's a known ignition source, and where it's so big that some of these bikes that they use, they put it right in right in the hallway of their apartment on their main means of egress. So let me take this package that's going to spontaneously combust, that has the fuel load, and it's going to block my egress. And let's see what happens. Well, we're seeing what's happening, and there's a lot of fires, and it's only going to happen more. There was this whole hoverboard craze a couple years back. They caused a lot, and then it kind of subsided, felt like, and then now all of a sudden, it's like a steady climb up, and
yeah.
it's unbelievable of the amount. So it's a great topic to get on. That can have hours on its own. So
Yeah, that topic alone, we could talk about the science side of it, which we will, and we'll talk about the positioning side of it, which we will. There's so much going on.
right.
But just wrapping this up, like Darren said, cold weather's coming, looking out ahead. That said, for guys on our job, listen to the radio. You hear 1070, floor above, start making your way back to the hallway. Basic stuff like that. Unfortunately, the job is a bit young. We could be operating over there and going back to not listening to the radio and not properly hearing things because you're so focused, driven on search or extension, all these things. You got to listen to the radio. 1070 is such a key transmission this time of year, especially on the floors above. So make your way back to the hallway, area refuge, all stuff we talk about. Your senior guys should be passing this on to you. If they're not, shame on them, and just make sure you just don't push too far on the floor above. When you go to the floor above, let the engine guy know below, the engine boss, before you make the move. Lou, Cap, we're going above. Boom. Now that you're up there, now we lose water, frozen hydrant. Now they know. Well, we got guys up there. Make sure they get out. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's really pretty much it with that.
For those in the live that don't know, the 1070 is essentially a transmission over our department radio, letting members on scene and members responding in that we do not have a positive water source. A lot of times it happens because of frozen hydrants. So once that gets transmitted, everybody knows, like, all right, it's all hands on deck. We got to get a water source, a positive water source back into play, and also members who are potentially operating in the building already. Guys, be cognizant of what you're doing. Be cognizant of fire conditions. Don't overextend yourself. Know your means of egresses, because water is going to be delayed. That's what he's. Yes. So this can happen in any department. We just happen to use the 1070 code, but you guys could, in your departments, could have water issues. If you experience anywhere in the Northeast or anywhere, north, we're not talking about down south, but talking about anywhere north in the United States, we have extremely cold weather. Like, really be cognizant of this extended cold weather that we're going to have. Yeah. And also, while operating, if you hear transmissions of water issues, really start to think how far in the building you are, means of egress, and stuff like that. So,
yeah, so just to branch off that, though, floor above, cold weather, Northeast, wherever you are, search to a point of a second means of egress, and then continue to search from there to your second means of egress, your third means of egress, your fourth, whatever it may be. But as you're searching, you should be searching for your second means of egress while you're searching for life. That's just a concept to think about. Cold winter months, 1070s, loss of water, whatever it may be, floor above, search to your second means of egress, confirm that, get that going, and then move from there. That's your threshold every time you go. It's like baby steps searching on the floor above in this type of weather, and any type of weather. That's how you should be thinking. But now is a very critical time.
Okay. All right. I think Yeah, I think it's great. And
I just want to clear something up real quick. There was I'm in Georgia on February 3rd. So there was a flyer out there saying it was on a Friday. It is on a Thursday, the 3rd. Just so any clarification with that. I just want to get that out there. Someone messaged me that they were trying to line up for the class and it didn't line up because the date was wrong. So I just wanted to get that out there. If anyone happened to be listening, there's any question, it is not on Friday, it is on Thursday. And that is in Georgia, where else that'll land on February 3rd.
well, what's the date for the New Jersey one?
New Jersey one is Sunday the 30th, Reef and Barrel in Manasquan, Fire Academy to Fire Floor. It's pretty much just bridging the gap from what goes on at the Fire Academy and what goes on the Fire Floor. Pretty much everything I talked about. If you follow the page, and that's that, and you'll see it. So, and then on this Saturday, I'm in Alabama, Orange Beach. Thanks to Port City Fire Training for setting all this up. Tremendous Anthony Roette, Port City Fire Training. Check him out. Doing tremendous job. He's getting great guys out there doing the right thing. Nick Esposito, Darren, you're on board now. So we got a lot of good stuff going on. So look forward to a lot of that.
All right, Mike. Again, always a pleasure. Thanks for setting this one up again. And me and Mike will announce a date sometime for next week or coming up soon. And we'll talk about these battery fires that are happening and
Yes.
different things. We'll look at it from a couple of perspectives. We'll look at it tactically on the Fireground and things to think about. And we'll also look at it from, I know we all hate it, but maybe the hazmat side of it on how you could potentially handle these. Even if you're not hazmat trained, like you get on scene, it could be a private dwelling, wherever else. What's something you could do quickly to potentially mitigate this scenario while waiting for other units to arrive?
You know, we don't like no one likes hazmat, but I think that understanding the hazmat side of this is crucial, so we don't kill people or kill ourselves.
Yeah, especially with this topic, because if we don't deal with these barriers correctly, it's going to lead to problems. So it's pretty amazing what's happening with them. So we're gonna definitely have to cover it. And listen, this topic is not the last time you're going to hear about it. I'm sure there's already guys well in the works that are got plans to make these big things at FDIC and everything else.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the FDIC lithium-ion battery hot topic class.
It's gonna happen. But all right, Mike, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it, and come join us on the next one.
All right, be good, bro.
All right, bye.